Okay, hang on. I've got the easiest assignment possible. Let us balance the budget in the next 6 minutes with my dear friend Mick Mulvaney. Mick Mulvaney, former director of OMB and former White House chief of staff. Mick, welcome back. This is easy. Come on, for you, this is a piece of cake. But I will just posit this at the beginning. We will not end the inflation if we keep spending and borrowing the way we have been. And, of course, that puts the Federal Reserve in a very compromising position, and they ain't done such a good job either. So, come on, let's balance the budget.
Okay, well, it is easy, because all you have to do then is cut foreign aid and not pay Congress.
Oh, I love that.
I used to get those emails all the time
On
and say,
both counts.
If we cut foreign aid to zero, we can balance the budget. If you cut the Defense Department to zero, you couldn't balance the budget. The numbers, Larry, as you know, are just so outrageous. And they're getting bigger because of the interest carry on the debt, right? You look, $30 trillion. You guys talked in a previous segment about maybe interest rates have to go to 5-6%.
Yep.
That's $1.8 trillion eventually on an annual basis on just the interest alone. So it's hard. It really is. There are things we could be doing. We could be fixing Medicare and Social Security, which are running out of money. But instead, what Washington is doing is actually making more mandatory spending. And what's mandatory spending? Mandatory spending is automatic spending every single year. When you and I worked on the budget together, the budget was about $1.2 trillion, but the government spent $4. That other $2.8 trillion was all in mandatory spending. So it's really, really, really hard. The political will probably isn't there. If there's a silver lining, Larry, to inflation, is that finally, after 20 years of folks like you and me saying that there would be negative impacts if we kept spending money like this, people are starting to see the negative impacts of this. Once voters decide they want a balanced budget, politicians will care about it.
Well, that's the thing. So you've got an opportunity here with inflation raging. All right, a lot of it is bad Federal Reserve policy, but a lot of it's bad federal spending policy, which to some extent forces the Fed's hand. So look, you talk about mandatory spending. You've got all these so-called small entitlements, right? Welfare-related, food stamps-related, housing subsidies, child subsidies, and so forth. They have grown way too much, and there's no work requirements attached to any of them. I could see major reductions and tougher rulemaking there. Discretionary spending, so-called, outside of the defense budget. I don't want to cut defense.
Yeah.
I want to cut all these extraneous discretionary points. You could put on strict penalties like Graham-Rudman. We talked about Graham-Rudman. We actually had our former boss on to the Graham-Rudman sequestration for about 10 days. He backed off it. But those are things that could be done. And, Mick, we can grow the economy at 4% a year with lower taxes and regulations. I mean, you know,
not only is the government bringing in more raw dollars than it ever has before,
record revenues.
It's bringing in a record percentage. I think it's going to be close to 20% of GDP this year. Look, we did something, I think it was right before you joined us in the White House. Under the Trump administration, we offered the most dramatic reduction in mandatory spending, and we did not touch Social Security and did not touch mainline Medicare and so forth, because there's so much of that mandatory spending that people don't know about. Part of your Medicare taxes go obviously to pay for your medical bills. Yay, that's good. That's what it's there for. Did you know it goes to pay down tuition costs for doctors and hospitals?
No,
exactly. That's
the stuff.
That's the stuff that you can find a lot of money in.
And workfare should be restored into every single one of those programs.
Absolutely.
And you would get massive reductions in spending.
But you have to change. You have to change the culture. No one's ever lost their job in Washington because they spent too much. In fact, I heard Mitch McConnell say that to Donald Trump one time.
Well, I know, but I think Mitch is wrong on that. Look, okay, here's your excuse. This election is about inflation, and it's about recession. Inflation, okay? Inflation. So to cut inflation, the public is ready to see a greatly trimmed down federal budget. That's all.
Inflation, too much money chasing too few goods.
Right.
How do you solve it? Either you take some money out of the system or you put more goods into the system, which is what we did in the Trump administration. We had wage increases and we had growth without inflation because we were making more stuff. You could also do both things. You could take money out and put more things in.
Which is the solution?
The Biden administration is just looking, and the Fed is just looking at driving that demand down, demand destruction. That's what a recession is. They should be looking at ways to get more stuff into marketplace.
Well, the Bidens are raising demand with more and more spending, while the Fed is trying to. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
And they're raising
all.
demand without making more stuff, right? That the regulatory climate is making it harder to bring goods and services.
So we've done it here. We're going to slash mandatory spending, restore workfare, grow the economy at 4% a year by minimizing taxes and regulations, and we're going to put penalties, more sequestration. Phil Gramm lives, more Graham-Rudman sequestration. We've done it in
less
6 minutes.
less than 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Mick Mulvaney. It's
great to see
terrific
you.
stuff.